Hello, I'm Doug DeWitt, Transfer Paper Product Manager here at Condé Systems. In today's video, we're going to be discussing heat presses and how they relate to t-shirt transfer production, especially those clients that might be using the self-weeding papers like the Neenah image clip products or our laser imprints trim-free. In this video, we're going to give you a little bit of background information on our manufacturer of heat presses, which is Knight Company based out of Brockton, Massachusetts. After that, we're going to discuss the different models of George Knight presses that are available through Condé and discuss both the pros and cons of each press and how they relate to t-shirt transfer production. After that, we'll summarize the points that we've discussed and give you our recommendations for what we feel are the best models to use with t-shirt transfer paper. First, let me take an opportunity to give you a little bit of background information about the company that makes heat presses that we distribute here at Condé. That company would be George Knight, based out of Brockton, Massachusetts. George Knight is a family-owned business that's been making industrial equipment and heat presses since the 1860s. One of the many reasons that we love George Knight presses, besides the fact that they are made out of solid-state iron and the heating elements are guaranteed for life, but being a family-owned business and an American business, they're a great company to work with if you have any problems with your heat presses. To give you an idea of the quality of their presses, all the heating elements in George Knight presses are guaranteed for the life of the press. So now that we've got that out the way, let's start with the different George Knight models that Condé Systems carries. The first one I'm showing here is a line of presses called the Jet Press. There are two Jet presses, one that's called the JP12, which is a 9-inch by 12-inch press area, and this model, which is the JP14S, which is a 12-inch by 14-inch swing-out platen heat press. This particular press sells for about $495 here at Condé Systems. Now, to show you some of the features of this press, as you can see here, we've got a self-timer here that's easy to program. We have our pressure knob, which can raise or lower the platen height so you can adjust the pressure. And then we have an analog thermostat located here. As far as this press is concerned, for those of you who use sublimation, it's a handy little press to have because it's portable and it's able to keep a constant temperature. But when it comes to t-shirt transfer production, we do not recommend the Jet Press line. The reason is, with the analog thermostat here, it's difficult to gauge an accurate temperature because these analog thermostats are not going to be as accurate as digital thermostats. Also, since the knob here to control the temperature on the press is not gauged, it's difficult to reach an accurate temperature. Usually you have to set your temperature knob here and wait for the analog thermostat to steady before you know which temperature you're at. Now, as I said, if you can keep the press at 400 degrees constant, it's a great press for working with small sublimatable items, but it does not lend itself well to t-shirt transfer paper production, especially if you're trying to do the self-weeding papers like the image clip or the trim-free. If you're using image clip paper or trim-free paper, we need to step up to a better press. The next line of presses in the George Knight series are what are known as the digital clamshell presses. At George Knight, they have two models, a DK16, which sells for about $850, and a DK20, which sells for a little over $1,000. The difference is the platen size. The DK16, which you see here, is a 14-inch by 16-inch platen area, while the DK20 is a 16-inch by 20-inch platen area. Now, what we mean by a clamshell press is, like a clam, the press raises straight up and comes straight down, locking into position. Now, some added features that this press has over the Jet Press line is we now have a digital thermostat inside of this press. That means the press is going to be accurate plus or minus 2 degrees from the temperature you set it to. Also, you've got a digital timer, which makes it much easier to read to let you know when your transfers are done. Also, with the new digital presses, you will actually find a gauge meter that ranges from 0 to 9 that will help you measure the amount of pressure that you're exerting on a particular item. While it may not give you the pounds per square inch, it will give you a way to calibrate your press, which is important for doing t-shirt transfers, especially when you're doing the image clip or the trim-free line of transfers, the self-weeding papers. Now, as far as this press is concerned, what I like about this press is it's an inexpensive press, and if you're doing single sheet t-shirt transfers, such as inkjet or color laser transfers, it's a great press to work with, easy to operate, easy to maintain. However, if you're using the self-weeding papers, it can be a little difficult to calibrate this press. Unlike most presses where you turn the pressure knob right to tighten or left to loose, on these clamshell presses, it's the exact opposite. You got to turn left to tighten, right to loosen. And sometimes it throws the people off. Also, since you kind of have this floating platen here, it can be difficult sometimes for the platen to come down and apply even pressure. Now, on an inkjet t-shirt transfer or a single sheet color laser transfer where we're going on directly to the shirt, it may not be such a big deal. But when it comes to the self-weeding papers where you have to use a light to light medium pressure in order to calibrate the press and have the process work properly, this can be a difficult press to calibrate. So we're going to discuss some other presses in the George Knight line which will be easier to use with the self-weeding papers. The next type of press in the George Knight product line is this particular press here called the Digital Combo Press, or by part number DC16. This press is about a $1,150 press. It is a 14-inch by 16-inch platen area, and as you can see from this, it is a swing-away press, meaning the top platen lifts up and swings to the side, unlike a clamshell press where the heat platen comes straight up and down. Like the digital press we mentioned before, this press will have a digital thermostat, so it should be accurate plus or minus 2 degrees. Has a built-in digital timer as well as the pressure gauge similar to the clamshell models of the George Knight presses. What makes this press unique is that you can get different attachments to this press to convert this press to do ball caps, mugs, or ceramic plates. So for those of you who are into sublimation, it makes a great press because of its versatility. When it comes to using t-shirt transfer papers, it also works very well with t-shirt transfer papers. Because a swing-away press comes straight up and straight down, you are always going to get even pressure on the items that you're pressing together. So if you happen to be using any of the image clip papers or the trim-free self-weeding papers, this press can work very well for those applications because it's always going to deliver even pressure, which is critical whenever you're working with self-weeding papers. As far as the press is concerned, the only knock that I have on this particular press is that you're limited in size, which is a 14-inch by 16-inch platen area. So if you're using some of the self-weeding papers where you want to do 11 by 17 or tabloid printing, obviously we're going to have to step up to a bigger swing-away model, which is what we're going to show you next. Now let me show you my favorite heat presses from the George Knight line for t-shirt transfer paper production. There are two models I prefer. This model here, which is the DK20S, and the air-operated version of this DK20S. For demonstration purposes here, we have a manual DK20 heat press made by George Knight. It's a 16-inch by 20-inch platen area with a swing-away platen. With the swing-away platen, as we had mentioned before, you are always going to get even pressure that you apply to whatever substrate is in the press because of the design of the press. The top platen comes straight up and straight down. Easy to lock into position. Like the other digital George Knight presses, you have your digital readout for your temperature, which should be accurate plus or minus 2 degrees. You have your digital timer here, which will display in minutes and seconds. And then you also have your pressure gauge, which is rated from 0 to 9. You can use this pressure gauge to help calibrate this press. When it comes to calibrating the press, especially for the image clip papers or the trim-free papers, it's important because usually in the first step of using those papers, you need a light to medium pressure. It's easy to maintain a light to medium pressure on these particular presses, which is why we feel that the DK20S is the best press for using the image clip or trim-free papers because of its ability to deliver light pressure, not just medium or heavy, which is necessary for those steps. Now, if you want to get a little more technical, there's the air-operated version of this George Knight press. This particular press sells for about $1,300. The air-operated version sells for about $1,000 more than that. It will have an attachment where you can either attach shop air lines or a 2.5 to 3 gallon air compressor, which you have to buy separately. But the reason that we love the air-operated presses are not only can you control the temperature and the time, but you can also control the pressure. So once you calibrate your press to use the image clip papers and you know the exact pounds per square inch or pounds per square foot setting, It's easy to reprogram that press so that you can always recalibrate time after time. If your shop is like our shop and everybody uses the press for different applications, you might find that with a manual press you are constantly recalibrating your press settings to use the image clips or the trim-free papers. But with an air-operated press, it's as easy as setting a dial and pressing a button. So now let's quickly review what we've learned in today's video in regard to George Knight heat presses and how they relate to t-shirt transfer paper production, particularly with the image clips and other self-weeding transfer papers. When it comes to the jet press line of heat presses, you do not want to use those for heat transfers. They should be used for sublimation only. When it comes to the digital clamshell model presses, they are good for single sheet transfer papers, such as most of your inkjets or standard color laser transfer papers. But when it comes to self-weeding papers, you're going to have a difficult time calibrating this press consistently. When it comes to the digital combo George Knight presses, this is a good press to use not only for sublimation, but for all t-shirt transfer papers, including the self-weeding papers. What you have to be careful of is the size of the platen, the 14-inch by 16-inch platen. If you plan on doing tabloid transfers, you're going to need to move to the bigger manual swing-away press, the DK20S here. This is the press that we recommend not only for sublimation, but for using all of our t-shirt transfer papers, including the self-weeding papers. If you want to get really fancy, go with the air-operated version of this press. You might spend a little more money, but you'll be able to calibrate not only the temperature and time, but the exact amount of pressure that you exert, which will make it very easy to calibrate. My advice when it comes to purchasing a heat press is simply this. When it comes to your business, you're going to have to replace equipment over the course of time, such as your computer or your printer or your software that runs your computer. However, heat presses are built to last. There are George Knight presses out there in the field that are 50, 60 years old and still operating like the day that they were designed. So when it comes to heat presses, my advice is this. Budget some money and buy the biggest, baddest press that you could possibly afford. In other words, you want to have a DK20 or a DK20 air-operated model. You need to think of it as a one-time investment. If you buy the right equipment, it will actually save you hundreds, if not thousands of dollars over the course of time. So remember, when it comes to purchasing a heat press, make sure you get the right press for your application, but we recommend the George Knight manual or air-operated swing-away models, especially when it comes to producing t-shirt transfers like the image clip line or the trim-free line. However, should you need any advice or have any questions regarding these heat presses, don't hesitate to contact us directly at 1-800-826-6332, or you can visit our website at www.condé.com for more information. My name's Doug DeWitt, Transfer Paper Product Manager here at Condé Systems. My time is up, and I thank you for yours.